Kia ora te whānau, no mai haere mai, ko Erica Austin toku ingoa. My name is Erica Austin and I am your host for this room, Kowhai Room. I hope you've enjoyed a short afternoon break. Welcome to the Seeds Impact Conference if this is your first session of the day. The next session is a kōrero around Māori-led startups, and we're fortunate to hear from our awesome speakers. And just a kind reminder, if you don't have the program, I will drop into the chat. You can also tune into other parallel sessions as well. This session is also being recorded so we can share beyond this group that's tuning in live. Tēnā koe, Sara, over to you. Really looking forward to this topic, and I'll be here to support you if you need help.
Thanks so much, Erica, and just want to do a mihi to both yourself and Stephen Moy in particular for organising this Seeds conference. I saw the lineup and just thought, wow, how to choose a session. So that was really, really cool that you guys have pulled this together, and thank you very much for hosting us. Kia ora te whānau, just saying a quick hi. So what I'm going to start with is just quick round of introductions. So I'll go first to give you guys both kind of time to dream up what you want to share, but I'll just start with with my pepeha. So ko waio, who am I? Ko the difdate te maunga, ko the lek te awa, no Hollander ho, ko Petrus Reikus toku papa, ko Plonia de Goederen toku mama, ko Aramatafa taku tani, ko Saara Tawha toku ingoa. So I am originally from Holland. I grew up wearing little wooden shoes, riding my bike on the dike in the snow, and I grew up on a subsistence farm, so I can milk a goat. Hopefully that gives you some kind of impression as to what like my background is like. No TV, no cars, no supermarkets, and preserves, lots and lots of making preserves. I moved to Aotearoa in 1988 and with my whānau, and have lived in and around Waikato ever since. In 1996, I met my sweetheart at the Heafy Terrace New World, and it has since been downgraded to a 4 square. So I'm not sure if that's a sign. But together we have 4 handsome Waikato sons, and the eldest is 25, the second is 24, and then we have 7-year-old twins. We had one last-ditch effort at having a girl. God laughed and gave us exact replicas of the first 2. So that is our little whānau. And my boys are my reason for working in the Māori economic development space. So I've been doing that mahi for half a decade or so now. And I'm a very passionate advocate for all things Māori economic development, Māori business development, and Māori in tech in particular, acceleration. So for the last little while, I've been running the Kōkiri Kaupapa Māori Business Accelerator, and I've brought some of my friends that I've met along the way on this panel today. I'm really excited to be hosting this panel. I want us to talk about Māori entrepreneurship all the time. So just 45 minutes didn't seem long enough, mostly because I'm really good at utilizing lots of words. So I'll start by just putting apologies in. Mike Jenkins is meant to be on our panel today, and he may join us a little bit later. He had a flight change at the last minute, and so messaged me not long before this kōrero was due to start to let me know that his flight will now be landing at about 3:10. So hopefully he'll make the end of our kōrero and be able to enlighten us from his perspective. But we have got Sara Smeath from CiRCLR and Natalie Wi from Ako Academy joining us today to talk about all things Māori business. And I wanted to start with a little story of kind of my background in economic development. So in the 90s, I worked for the Waikato Economic Development Agency then, which was called the Business Development Centre, and worked with mainstream business. And I often had sessions with whānau coming in to say, hey, I want to start a business, I want to make $1 million, and this is how I'm going to do it. That was a pretty common conversation, that money was the driver and that the business was the means to achieving the money. when I started working in the Māori business economic development space only 5 years ago, I've never ever heard that reference, I suppose. So it was always, I want to do something amazing with my whānau land, or I want to help my cousins get jobs, or I want to, my nephew needs a job, so I need to grow my plumbing business. There was always a social good or an environmental good or some other kind of impact that drove the desire to grow and develop a business. And that it's not for lack of wanting to make money. Definitely they want to make money also, but the Māori entrepreneurs I've had the privilege of working with, and I've worked with thousands over the last 5 years, almost all have started with impact and worked towards financial, I guess, sustainability down the track, once we've established how we can make that impact. So that's been my experience of working across both paradigms. And certainly that's a shift that's happening across the board. So you do see lots more impact stuff happening now than you did in the 90s. It's a much more common conversation across all business, which I'm really excited about. But that's a little bit about me and my background. I'm going to pass over now to the other Sara. Sara and I met at one of our one-day wānanga, kind of leading into our accelerator. And we've remained mates ever since, and we hang out online all the time. But I just want to pass the mic to you and get you to tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your business, and a little bit about the impact that you'd like to create with your business.
Oh, thank you so much. Ko puki tohu no taku maunga, taumare taku awa, Ngāti Manu, taku hapu, and apui taku iwi ko Sara, taku ingoa. Kia ora everyone, I'm Sara. I'm based here in Te Tai Tokerau. A little bit about me, I actually started off here. I never finished high school. We had these fancy toilets being made in our area, the Kawakoa Hundavasa toilets. And so through those Hundavasa toilets, I was given $1,000 to leave high school and start university and start, an arts degree. So that's how I kind of started off in the world of design. And through that, I was selected as the Inspiring New Zealander in design, and I was mentored by Karen Walker and got taken around the world thanks to Air New Zealand, and went to New York Fashion Week, where I was filmed for 2020. And then from there, I kind of just started my career, and kind of it boosted me out of New Zealand. And I was designing for a lot of international brands, picking up different languages, living mostly in Asia, I'll say, the predominantly of my life. And then it was during COVID that I came home. In China, I was there for almost 8 years, and I was the global innovation team leader for H&M. So I worked on designing the components and trends 2 years ahead of our design teams that were based in Sweden. And there was a really big push at that time for sustainability and circular economies. And I realized that we were never short of these amazing innovations that would come to us that could solve these waste issues. But we really struggled to get enough waste to these innovations to actually meet our MOQs for production. And coming back home during the pandemic, I realized that these same problems were happening across, the food and fiber sector and construction sector. And so we started looking at these different opportunities, and it was through talks with our marae, and I had not been connected to our marae for a long time. And through these talks, I realized that, we had a massive opportunity to help people in the area become business owners. And I got a bit sick of always hearing that Māori were the workforce. And I realized if we can understand the resource opportunities in these areas, we'll be able to make more business opportunities for the people in the regions. And so that's how we kind of started building CiRCLR, being able to connect the dots from the resources to value-added opportunities. And I guess since then, we've kind of had a lot of popularity, mostly overseas, not so much in New Zealand. So we're kind of flying between Australia and Singapore at the moment, and even Tesco's in the UK have been interested in what we're doing. And so we're just, I think impact's a really big part of what we do, but we are also trying to connect the dots and saying that by being more sustainable, there's a triple bottom line, and you can now also be more financially viable and create these economic opportunities throughout regions, which we never had before. Hopefully that made sense.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sarah. Appreciate that heaps. Natalia, do you want to say a quick hi?
Tēnei te mihi nui kia koutou. Ko wai tēnei e kōrero ana, ko Natalia Wi tōku ingoa, he uri tēnei no te aupauri, no Ngāti Kuri, no Ngāti Porou me te Aitanga Hawiti, i te puake a hau ki Pōneke, noho ana au ki Wainui o Mata i nāne. Kia ora everybody, my name is Natalia Wi. I am from all of those places, and I live currently in Wellington in Wainui o Mata with my 3 tamariki. So my background is that I'm an educator and I am a second language learner of Te Reo Māori. And I think I learned Te Reo Māori in a very unique way. And that was when I had my first son, my mātā mua. He's about to turn 10, which is always a big mama moment. He became my reo buddy. And so I would go away, I would learn something, I would come back and I would repeat to him until I felt like I had it under my belt, and then I would be able to move on and learn something else. So through doing this, I pretty much became fluent within 2 years, and just having that safe space that I could practice reo with. I went on and I worked as a high school teacher, and that was really rewarding. And then I had some more tamariki and was at home a little bit bored, wondering what I wanted to do and what direction I wanted to take for my life. So after a few opportunities were put in front of me, I decided that I wanted to start my own business teaching Te Reo Māori. And just by chance had opportunities come to me where people wanted to learn Te Reo, and they were working in government organizations and private organizations. So that was really amazing, and I got to meet lots of different people working in different sectors throughout Aotearoa. One day I started to think about the types of technology that were becoming available to us and how we as Māori could use that technology to create by Māori for Aotearoa EdTech, specifically in the Te Reo Māori space. And it kind of helped that one of my clients was Callaghan Innovation at the time. So I walked into Mahi one day and said, hey, what would I do if I had an idea? I want to create a digital reo buddy and a learning suite. And so from there, they were able to connect me up with a few different people, and emails were being sent within 5 minutes. And it really was just like the right place, right time type of scenario. And so we started this journey going down, creating this digital technology, which is quite hilarious because I don't have a tech background. So when we were first having these conversations, I didn't even know what an MVP was or a proof of concept. I think I thought everything was going to be a few $1,000s and take a few months. So that's been quite hilarious, like going down that journey and figuring that all out. And from there, we took the idea and pitched it to jump on the Kōkiri Māori Business Accelerator. And that was really amazing for us because all of a sudden we were surrounded by people who were really well connected, super inspiring, really positive, and understood that journey that we were on. Did that, it was amazing, it was such a buzz. And then we were really fortunate to be given the opportunity to go to China in August this year and check out what was happening over there, connect with other people like Les Mills who have turned a physical service into a digital service, and find out about how they did that. So we're super lucky. And I guess the biggest impact for us as a Pākehī is being able to connect people with Te Reo Māori and be able to be part of the revival and education of Aotearoa society as we move into this space. So, kia ora, tēnei te mihi kia koutou.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm so excited that with your proposed use of AI in the revitalization of language. So we had another business come through Kokiri a few years ago, and their leading line of their pitch was that every 2 weeks the world loses a language, which means that the last Indigenous or fluent speaker dies. And it's quite a tragic loss of diversity that's just been happening across so many sectors. So we see that in wildlife, and we see that in all sorts of other things, but we see that in language for us as people as well. And I think there's such a richness in having multiple languages, and it's so much more than just I guess translation. There's a lot within a language that's more than words. So I'm really excited to see the passionate way in which Māori are revitalising their reo, and yeah, it's awesome that you're trying to see how technology can play a part in that. So very keen to unpick a little bit more of that as we go through the conversation. So Mike Jenkins, I'm just going to do a quick intro for him so that if he's able to jump on a little later, then you've already been introduced. So the reason I asked Mike Jenkins to join us is because he's an exited founder. So when we talk about startups, we talk about founders, people who came up with the startup and then built it from the ground up. So Mike did that with his tech business, which was called the Instillery, which grew to be kind of the biggest IT business, similar to kind of what Datacom does, or big organizations like that, but the biggest New Zealand owned version of that. And he exited that business after 10 years a year or two ago, and is now a professional director, and also goes around and supports other Māori businesses to try and give them a leg up around the country, which is really cool. And I run into him at all the pitch events around the country and stuff like that, which was pretty exciting. So hopefully he'll be able to join us and tell us more about his journey, because it's certainly much richer than what I've just given you. But just so you know that if he pops in, he was meant to be on the panel, but unfortunately his flights got changed. So outside his control. Okay, what I'd like to do now is I'd like to ask you, I'll ask a question and I'll get you both to answer, just take turns. Tell me the best thing about being a Māori founded business. Like, what's the best thing about being Māori in business? Sara, we'll start with you.
For me, I think part of my story, Sara, like when I was applying to be a part of Kokiri, I was really questioning, am I Māori enough? I'd been overseas for so long, I hadn't been connected to my marae, and there's been a lot of talks about, does your business have Māori values? And I realized the whole structure of our business, the whole reason of our business was actually based on things that we had been taught as kids from our grandparents, from our aunties and uncles. It was that thought about giving things back. There was no waste. All resources were used. We made the most of what we had. And so I think, being able to connect with other Māori and hear these stories, again, has been really important for us. I was also really, really lucky to go on the first Māori delegation to Supply Nation, which is in Australia. It's the Indigenous Business Conference. And there I was really able to understand what it meant to be an Indigenous business, and the different kind of different hurdles we've had to go across, but also the different opportunities that we are holding for a lot of people but behind us and with us on that kind of sustainable journey. And I think it's been really great to feel that you've got a whole lot of people here with you to kind of reach out and communicate with. And I think it's the partnerships and it's the open collaboration opportunities. I think we like to work with each other, which has been really good. And the support, I feel that's one of the biggest things about being a Māori business. And I think that's really exciting. And I've been really grateful to kind of learn so much about myself in this process as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sara. Natalia, what's the best thing about being a Māori business to you?
I would probably say the amount of tautoko and support that you get from other people within, who also have Māori businesses. And it never felt once within the kōkiri space that there was competition. It was all about supporting each other and encouraging each other, and finding opportunities that we thought matched one another and flicking them on and saying, hey, I thought of you when I saw that. And I really appreciated that.
That's so cool. Yeah, I think collaboration is definitely strong. And we saw that when we were running a co-working space, and we had, sort of 20 Māori founders working in the same space every day. Just the amount of collaboration and cross-pollination that happened between people sitting in the same space and sharing ideas was mammoth. So definitely I can concur that that's a huge aspect. I see that there's a partai there, and I wondered if either of you have any insights into this. This is from Ben. Kia ora, Ben. And within my renewable gas sector, we face a large misunderstanding of explanations around concept of tapu versus noa. Have you observed this in your time in business and had the frank conversations on your marae?
For us, actually, this is something that has come up, not so much a lot about tapu versus noa, but about connecting the resources to renewable gas, understanding our different waste streams that they had there and how they can, monetize this or actually create a better value-added opportunity to decarbonize our marae. But I'm actually, I might reach out to you again later on, because I will have this conversation with them, because we are in talks at the moment.
Kia ora. Anything from yourself, Natalia?
Yeah, I was reading this question and I thought, so tapu and noa is something that we talk about within Ako Academy, and something we work with our clients about. And I guess I can understand why there is large misunderstandings, because it's a uniquely Māori concept. And so I've never had to have conversations with my marae around this, but I think that it is really important, especially going into working with Māori stakeholders, that you educate and begin to understand those unique Māori concepts like tapu and noa, tikanga Māori. Aye. That's
awesome. Hopefully that's helpful, Ben, and Sarah's going to reach out to you and have a further yarn. I see another question here from Sari. I tautoko Sara's thought on not being Māori enough. How did you deal with that? So I'm just going to add in here that probably I would say about 50% of the people I work with, the whānau that have come through my programs, question their eligibility within Te Ao Māori. And my understanding of this as a mother of half Māori children is that it is your whakapapa, not your blood dilution, that makes you Māori. So, as we can go and do our genealogy, each of us, we might find that we have Irish heritage, or, in my case, Dutch heritage. Then that makes us, that gives us that relevance, that whakapapa, that lineage, that link back to Irish roots, or to Dutch roots, or to wherever it is that your whakapapa takes you. And certainly in a culture such as Māoridom and Te Ao Māori, where whakapapa was a primary value. My father-in-law used to tell me that, in days gone by, you'd end up in the hangi if you didn't know your whakapapa back to the waka. I'm sure he said that as a joke, but that's kind of the jokes that he would say. But it was extremely important, and it was something that people knew by rote before there was anything written. So very important, and important to post-colonization for us to honor people's own, I guess, affiliation. So, I've known people who, for instance, might have had one Māori grandparent, but really felt a strong link to that person and felt a strong link to their whakapapa Māori. And for them, they saw themselves as being Māori, and that's cool. And there's other people who would have exactly that same one grandparent who was Māori and don't feel that they are Māori. you know, like that don't have that affiliation to their whakapapa Māori the same way that that other person does. It's really up to the individual to determine that for themselves, but it's certainly not for anyone else to. And so that's kind of how I've seen that, but certainly it's super common that people really question, in particular around lack of contact to their whakapapa. So I've got a nephew, for instance, whose mother is British, and he's grown up in England. He looks Māori, but he has absolutely no contact with his Māori side. He's never been to his marae. He's, you know, like all of those disconnections that happen. He's no idea about his reo, all of those things. It would be very difficult for him to make that assertion or feel like he's Māori enough. And so, yeah, I definitely see this play out day in, day out for thousands of people. And I hope that we're able to support people more as they journey through that to just claim what feels right. So I'm just going to pass to Natalia now and just see what your thoughts are.
I just wanted to add on to that kōrero that I think in the mahi that I've done and in my own personal experience as well, that being Māori is more than just speaking te reo Māori. Being Māori comes in many different ways. It's not just about reo, it's not about how you look, and it's about how you are as a person. So that can be done through maybe mahiraranga weaving or arts or your hospitality, the way that you treat people. Being Māori can come out in so many different forms rather than just reo, but I do know that especially in the space that I work in, people put a lot of emphasis on, to be Māori, I have to speak te reo, and I have to speak te reo to a certain level. And I mean, even myself, I don't even think I'm not even at that level, you know. So we've put so many pressures on ourselves as Māori that in order to be Māori, we must be all of these things, but that can come out in many forms. That was all I wanted to add.
Kia ora. Thanks, Natalia. How about yourself, Sarah? How have you overcome that sense of not being Māori enough?
I think I've just learned a lot more about myself. To this day, nothing terrifies me more than having to say my pepeha. And now I've said it, I've known it since I was like 7 years old. But I just have that extra weight feeling like, oh, what if I get it wrong? What if I shay myself, or, you know, shay my tupuna or whatever? And it does feel really heavy. And every time I've had an event where I've had to kind of speak the little bit of Māori that I do have, I feel like real pride in it, but also it's a heaviness as well. I remember I won an award at the Māori Tech Awards, and I had a speech and everything. I couldn't do anything, just cry. So, you know, it's a feeling, and I think you kind of feel the weight of you know, how important it is, and how it is good to kind of grow. It doesn't have to be perfect. And, you know, I think that's just some of my learning, the way that I kind of get through these things, is that, yeah, I kind of feel that I am Māori and that it is important to me. I just, you know, I'm still learning myself.
Oh, no, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for sharing. There's a question here from Tanya. What are some of the ways that non-Māori support Māori rangatira in this space? So, yeah, how can non-Māori support Māori in this space where potentially that person is feeling like they're not quite, you know, like they haven't stepped into their Māori tanga so much yet, or they're on their journey at the beginning of their journey as well? Feel free to jump in.
Yes.
I guess being an educator, I always go back to education, but just having an understanding of tikanga, having an understanding of reo, even if it's really basic. I don't think that for non-Māori, the reo doesn't have to be, you know, ki ngā rangi tū haha, but if you can show intent that you're really genuine and support in those spaces, then I think that that's a really good step in the right direction.
Awesome. Did you want to add?
Yeah, I think that there needs to be kind of like just a different space kind of given to them, space to kind of think creatively. They were really good storytellers. Maybe we're not going to be fitting into how things have always been. Like, it is about the different stories they're able to tell and kind of be more creative, I think, in the way that they can kind of grow and understand more about themselves.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. Making sure, I'm just trying to make sure that we're answering the pātai and the questions in the chat. If you have got any questions, please chuck them in the chat, because this conversation is going to be way more valuable to you if you do engage. And otherwise we'll just fill it with kōrero. That's no worries to us, but just want to make sure you're getting what you want out of the session. So the next thing that I can see is, I think, from our mate Kay Marie Dunn. Hey Natalia, nice to see you doing some mahi in the space now. Good kōrero wahinama. Cool, awesome. And then Ben saying, having worked in the Māori design world within architecture as the financial controller, you can feel isolated. I could not agree more with the feels you have expressed. Thank you. Cool, awesome, cool. Okay, so not really a question there, but feel free to pop pātai in here, questions on the chat, and we'll try our best to answer those questions as we go through. We've got interest in what CiRCLR does. Do you want to explain how your business works, Sara?
Yeah, sure. So we give businesses the framework to be able to measure and record their waste in real time. So we simplify the reporting of waste analytics on a job, and we connect those different waste streams to those businesses that can use that as a value-added opportunity. So whether it will be extra food manufacturing, renewable gas, we need the organic material, or the different pine slash opportunities within the forestry sector, we connect these resources up at scale, so then business opportunities can be made. So we just came back from Singapore, where Saint-Gobain, who is the biggest construction manufacturer in the world, was interested in our offering, because they need to lower the embodied carbon for the construction industry in the future. And how we fit into that is that we help incentivize all the construction businesses and resource recovery businesses to understand what resources they have, so new business opportunities can be made at scale, so we don't need to mine raw materials anymore. But
Yeah,
I'm happy for you to email me at any time to further explain or give you a demo. That's no problem.
That's cool. Do you have any case studies, Sara, that you want to share, like just kind of to bring home exactly how that might work in practice?
Yeah, sure. So there was one that we were looking at in the glass industry, and we're collecting. So it was a lot of the demolition businesses were about to have a lot of waste cost increase from the waste levies, and we were able to connect and sort out the compliance needed to understand what glass can be recycled or sent to recycling centres, because this weighs a lot. And through those glass manufacturers, we can prove the embodied carbon and the traceability of where that glass has come from. So when the new products are made, whether that be sand for golf courses or pink bats or other glass materials, they can prove the carbon impact of those materials. Another example we're doing is a traceable take-back scheme for carpets. And we have been trying to work within the food sector here in New Zealand as well, but it's been mostly construction that have had the biggest interest so far.
Well, and do you find, Sara, and this is just off the back of what you've just shared, that basically it is enforcement of levies, in essence, that drives behaviour more strongly?
Yeah, I'd say definitely. I think we really tried to push hard in the food and fibre sector here, because we realised the resource opportunities we had. And while there are some great things happening with charity, we need to also look beyond charity and create more jobs within the regions for those businesses and those farmers that get affected by climate change and floods. They need to try and recoup some of that money, so they can't always just be giving things away. They need to be able to connect to value opportunities for the non-edible items which they have at bulk. I think there's a lot of education needed in this area, and we've been doing a lot of that, but it has been the policy change, like the waste levies going up, the proof needed for the waste reporting on tenders for government jobs, that have pushed the construction industry towards us a lot faster than food and fibres.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Arnie's got a pātai, a question here. Does anyone here know Māori enterprises working for the youth? lots and lots of Māori businesses are working for youth, definitely. A really good one that I've just come into contact with is Vaka. Vaka works for Māori and Pacifica youth in Tamaki Makaurau in Auckland. And they are actually a 3D printing and design business who employ rangatahi to do the actual design and builds. And if you have a look on the Matahiko Awards LinkedIn site, for instance, you'll see they had amazing awards that they created. That was all done by rangatahi that are working with Vaka. And so they're getting to learn about new technologies. They're getting to implement what they're learning in real world, real life work opportunities. And then that's leading to them actually having their own business ideas, their own design ideas, and lots of other opportunities. So Vaka is one business. Thanks so much, Erica, for sharing the link in the chat there, Ani. Just as one example of a business that's working for rangatahi. The Kindness Institute is another one. They're working in mental health for rangatahi. So I don't know how many of you have not heard this, but obviously New Zealand has a bit of a young people, and in particular Māori young people, mental health crisis. And what we mean by that is that more young Māori kill themselves per capita than any other nationality in the world almost. It's something that's terrifying, has a huge and sweeping impact on community. And the Kindness Institute actually work not just to support rangatahi themselves in those times of crisis, but to support teachers and parents who have a child that they're caring for that's going through self-harm or suicidal thoughts, and how on earth do you support that child if they're in your care, either in a classroom setting or in a home environment. So it's a really important education. And again, Erica, thank you so much for sharing the link. Kindness Institute do amazing work as well. So there's another business that's working for rangatahi in New Zealand, but there's so many. I'm sure that, if you just put the word in the Google search, I'm sure you'll come up with heaps more there. So the next question that I wanted to go to was around who is the Māori entrepreneur out there that each of you admire most, and why? Is there someone that you look up to that you really just think, wow, they're amazing? So I'm just going to put it out there that New Zealand has to be one of the still most able to reach out and touch people, places in the world that exist, because we're just so small and we're all still really open to that stuff. So a good example. So, and everyone knows me as Auntie Sara the Stalker. So I just kind of go around and I make friends with people to connect the ecosystem. And my whole game, or my whole, my take on this is that we need more visibility of Māori leadership, so that our young people can actually look to what's already being done out there by other Māori leaders, and so that they can feel like, oh, if they can do it, I can too. And I think we talk about representation matters, and it really, really, really does. So we've kind of proven that over and over again in our program. So Mike Jenkins was probably a really good example of, a Māori in tech that I went to just on LinkedIn and was like, hey, bro, want to be friends? And he was all good with that. Dave Letelier, just hit him up on LinkedIn, said, bro, do you want to come in and do a yarn to one of my groups? And he was like, all good, jumped on a Zoom with us during COVID. Just today, I actually met Aaron McDonald. Aaron McDonald is the leader of the first Māori-led unicorn, so $billion valued business startup from Futureverse, if you haven't checked that business out already. And so I read about him and thought, oh, we've got to be friends. Messaged him on LinkedIn thinking, well, he's going to be too busy to talk to me, obviously. He just messaged me back and was just like, yeah, sure, sweet as, hit me up. Here's my email. So that's all good. Aaron Ward from Ask Nicely, who won the Māori in Tech Award for the New Zealand Tech Awards this year, also happy as to come on and help. And I've often actually had Māori entrepreneurs reach out to us and ask if there's lots, ways in which they can support other Māori businesses. So those are some examples of businesses that I really admire. If you're not already following those guys on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is kind of my social media platform of choice, just because it's such a great way to make connections that can end up having ripple effects all over the world. But definitely follow Aaron Ward, Aaron McDonald, Cal Panoho is another one. So Cal runs a business called K&J Growth. He has some of the most applicable lessons in business in his LinkedIn posts, and I absolutely really admire him. So those are a few examples that I'll give you, but I'd love to hear from Sara first as to who's someone that you admire.
I find there's a lot of Māori entrepreneurs coming out of the woodwork that you didn't realize that were Māori entrepreneurs until you actually meet them face to face. At the Matahiko Awards, I just felt that was so amazing to see so many Māori, like female Māori entrepreneurs who had gone off and got all the investment from overseas and were like really doing well in their businesses based here. Melissa Golan has been amazing for us, and she is Tiripa Global. Now she won the same award that I had won, and she's kind of always helped me out since then. It's been really kind of great, the support that you have had, that I've had, and the support that you can get through these entrepreneurs. But I think that we're still kind of learning who is out there, because they're not advertising that they were Māori. It's just who they are, and I think that's how it's been in the past, and only now that it's a big part of the business.
Awesome, thank you so much. Natalia, who do you admire? Who's out there that you look to?
Oh, no, well, I was going to say Mike Jenkins, but you did steal that one. He was really amazing. He was my advisor through Kōkiri, and I really appreciated it. I was able to call him up last week and say, hey, can you give me some advice on this and that? And honestly, I think I got about 3 pages worth of notes after that 45-minute phone call. So definitely look up to him. In terms of wahine, Katie Brown, she has a business called Social Good, and she is also involved with the Te Hapori Matihiko, the Māori Tech Association. So she's amazing. Jonique Oli, she runs Waiapu Road, and I really just love seeing her, everything that she's doing and following that journey online. And lastly, I don't know if I can say this one, but my partner, Moi Waka Coffee, he owns a ticketing company called Ticket Space, and he has been the event manager for some of the biggest festivals in the country, like One Love, Bay Dreams, etc. And so pretty much everything I've learned so far about business, he's had to do a lot to do with it. So yeah, definitely appreciate that.
And that actually leads to something that I do want to talk about, is the importance of whānau in the journey within business. So we see so much connectivity in the Māori business ecosystem, where one person in a whānau really leads the way for others to kind of think what can be done. And we see lots and lots of that. I see lots of posts on LinkedIn, don't call your business, people in your business whānau, because they're, family that's not family, that, you can't fire family. That's probably relevant in a very Pākehā context, but in a Māori context, often your business partners, your employees are whānau, quite literally. And so yep, you can sack them, but then they're still going to be at Christmas lunch. Yeah, it's a really interesting sort of thing. I will do my best to pop those names in the chat, Chris. Okay, I know that we've only got a few more minutes. I wanted to talk about capital raising. So one of the biggest barriers that we come into after we build capability of Māori in business, which we do through programs like Kōkiri, what's the next challenge that they come into? So they want to grow, they've got this great idea, they want to grow, they need capital. You may have seen the stats, about 4% of all of the world's capital goes to female founders, and there are no stats on how much of that funding goes to Indigenous entrepreneurs. There's no stats because the numbers are so small, they'd be a fraction of a percent. And so I think that's something that's really worth us having a conversation around. I'm going to start by putting my disclosing where I'm at. So when I've come out of Kōkiri, I've gone to explore that space by going to work for Pledge Me. I'm wearing my Pledge Me t-shirt. Pledge Me is a crowdfunding platform that enables people to raise funds from their community of supporters. And it's one of the ways that collectivism can serve us as Indigenous people. And it's one of the things I want to explore as an option, because funding your ambitions as a Māori entrepreneur means you not only, especially if you're wahine as well, I think you guys will get some insights into that. Kia ora, Erica.
Hilda, sorry to cut you off, but we are at time, but I
Okay.
would love this conversation to continue. So I see there has been some emails dropped in here. Feel free to contact us, and also if Sara and Natalia, you're happy for people to add you on LinkedIn, would love to continue the kōrero, just honouring people's time. We are going to transition into the next session. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you so much. Thank you. Sara,
Let's give them a
Natalia.
virtual paki. Please use some reaction buttons, type in the chat and body language if you can to show your appreciation. Kia ora.